Okay, good evening everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Environment and Sustainability Panel on Thursday the 9th of October 2025. I'm Councillor McCarthy, I'm Councillor for Shrub End Ward and I'm the chair of this panel and I'll be chairing the meeting this evening. Action in the event of an emergency. There are no practice alarms planned for this evening, so if an alarm sounds, please evacuate the Town Hall by going down the main staircase or the back staircase to the High Street and then to the car park behind the Town Hall at St Rumble Street. There's the bells. This meeting is being held in the Grand Jury Room in the Town Hall in Colchester and is also being broadcast live over the internet, where it can be watched via the Council's YouTube channel, where the recording will be available to view afterwards. Please, would speakers use microphones at all times and speak directly into the microphone. Members of the committee may use electronic devices to access their meeting papers, and visitors are welcome to use mobile phones and other devices, including cameras, but please use them discreetly, set them to silent, and do not use voice or camera flash functions. There are toilets on every floor in the building and an induction loop in this room. We'll have a short break at 7:30. Introductions. I will now ask members of the committee and attending officers to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Simon Cairns, Head of Planning and Sustainability.
Simon Davison, Sustainability and Climate Change Manager.
Marianne Capps, Sustainability and Climate Change Officer.
Jane Thompson, Joint Lead Transport and Sustainability.
Emily Harrop, other half of Jane's Joint Lead on Transport and Sustainability.
Jimmy Allen, Parks, Countryside and Greening Operations Manager.
David Carter, Parks and Open Spaces Improvement Officer.
William Sunnox, Councillor for Rural North Ward and substituting for Councillor Sue Lissamore.
Martin Parsons, Councillor for Mersey and Pyfleet Ward and substituting for Councillor Kevin Bentley.
Catherine Spindler, Saints Ward.
Matthew Evans, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you. And we also have Ian Turner, Principal Transportation and Infrastructure Planner at Essex County Council, and Matt Sterling, Head of Economic Growth, both joining us online tonight. Substitutions. So we've heard that Councillor Parsons is in for Councillor Bentley and Councillor Sunnox is in for Councillor Lissamore. Is that right? Or either way, that'll do nicely. Item 3 is urgent items. We're not aware of any urgent items. Item 4 is declarations of interest. Have we any on the panel tonight? Nope. Okay, and then item 5 is minutes of the previous meeting. The committee is invited to confirm that the minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of April and 26th of June of this year are a correct record. May I have a proposer? Seconder? I don't think anyone was actually on this panel. Can I do it?
Yeah, you can, but
It's not necessary. We agree them, yeah? Okay, yeah. We're in a bit of a flux in this panel at the moment. We have some members missing, we have a few substitutions, so we'll do the best we can. So item 6 would usually be have your say. We have 2 have your say speakers, but as they're both aware, we're going to swap you over very slightly, so do stand by, and we're going to take item 7 first, which is the transport interchange update. So I have Ian Turner and Matt Sterling online. I don't know who's going to be leading on this one. Is it you, Matt?
Yeah, it is. I'll talk very briefly, thank you, and then I'll hand over to Ian, who'll do the substance of the presentation. And I really just wanted to remind panel that unfortunately we've only got Ian until about 10 to 7 tonight, so he will have to run away to an urgent appointment then, but I'll try and stay around if the discussion is still going on. What we're talking about tonight are some transportation initiatives by Team Colchester. And really, I was only going to introduce Team Colchester to you. It's a working alliance of the City Council and Essex County Council. It brings together the leaders of both councils with cross-party representation, and its sole purpose is to drive regeneration in the city centre. And one of its top priorities is to explore a new transport interchange to replace the current bus station. And another priority is around delivering the levelling up scheme, so making the changes to St Botolph Circus, for example. Ian is going to tell you in much more detail the latest state of play with all of those, so I'll hand over to Ian.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee, for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'll just share my screen. Forgive me, I normally use MS Teams, so hopefully this will work. If someone could just confirm you can see the slides, I'd be grateful.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Okay. So first of all, obviously Matt spoke about the particular projects linked to the Team Colchester. So that would be the St Botolph scheme associated with Luff, and also the review of the transportation interchange. But I thought I'd just start with a slightly wider information about the LC Whip programme, and then cover also East Hill as well. So if I start with the LC Whips first, so LC Whips, so local cycling and walking infrastructure plans. Essex County Council has recently updated their plan. Original plan was for Colchester was undertaken in 2019, and what the LC Whips do is set out a strategic plan, generally looking at 10 years ahead, and are developed by local councils, supported by the DFT. To create a network of high quality, safe and accessible infrastructure, and also other forms of wheeled transport as well. So it's not just about cycling, walking. And the idea is to prioritise a programme for improvement. So the cycle networks allow us the basis also to apply for local and central government funding to build new infrastructure. And obviously we work closely with Colchester colleagues on these to develop an improved network for each of the towns and cities we're looking at. So just to give you an overview of the scale that we're looking at, I've got sort of extracts from the latest document. There are links within the presentation which I'll share around so you're able to access these. But it just gives you an idea. It is a comprehensive review and network to be put in place, which goes and covers all key corridors within Colchester from north, south, east and west. And the idea is to create a high quality network and upgrade the existing provisions made, and obviously plan for that sustainable network. And it's both the cycling network as outlined here, but also the walking network as well. So these obviously we look to integrate within our highway and transportation improvement plans in general, but also local plans, generally looking at how we can sort of promote more sustainable modes as part of the overall way that we deal and manage traffic now and in the future. So that just sort of like sets an overview of where we are with the wider planning for sustainability, but focusing particularly on St Botolph Circus, which is the junction improvements. Again, there is a web page, and I'll provide a link on the slide for, or within the presentation for that. This is just an overview of what the scheme will look like. So effectively, we're still retaining the roundabout because at this location, it's important to still recognise the importance of the location from a transportation perspective, not just for general traffic, for buses as well. But at the moment, it's almost, it's impossible. There is no cycle link from the south of the city into the city centre. And the subways, obviously themselves, have issues of antisocial behaviour within them, which are well known. And also the actual area outside the front of the station is very unwelcoming. So the idea is this scheme is making improvements not only to the sustainable connectivity, but also looking at the public realm as a gateway into the city centre and also the wider St Botolph's regeneration. So this, as I say, is an overview. You can see that we have new cycling and walking facilities which encompass the outer perimeter of the roundabout and actually provide those connections now from the south through to the city centre. And as obviously the wider area around St Botolph's is redeveloped, we'll obviously look at how we integrate this further, but it provides sort of like the initial steps for how we will look to improve the connections into the city centre around the existing infrastructure that's there. Just focusing on the northern extent, the public realm area. Again, this is an important aspect of the overall scheme. creating that gateway into the city area, but also providing improvements and links between the railway station and the existing bus station. Notable differences there, obviously, is at the moment with the subways, you get significant narrowing outside the front of the station. It's not a pleasant environment, and the intention here, as well as also providing those improved cycle links, is also just providing an improved environment as well for people to access the station and obviously enter into the city area. We've got some design visualizations here. So again, this sort of gives a current view outside the station, which is, again, you can sort of see there's a very narrow corridor because of the subway, whereas obviously in the new design, we obviously create a much larger public realm space. There's potential for coffee kiosks, seating, planting, and obviously just creating a much more attractive area, as well as obviously supporting segregated cycle facilities for what is quite a dangerous and difficult place to navigate, but also recognising that we're separating cyclists and walkers. This is also about laying the foundations for improved connectivity for pedestrians, as I mentioned. So although we're unable to do everything at once, what we're able to do by this is obviously tackle that critical severance to southern residential areas, improve the public realm space, also provide links with existing measures that we've already been putting in place or about to become in place. So our Corridors 8, which is the city centre circuitry route, and also the LC Whip 4, which is the route that will go down East Hill, out through the moors, across to Grinstead University and obviously the New Garden community. And then beyond the St Botolph scheme itself, we'll be looking at the regeneration aspirations. So how we actually link it to the city centre and obviously the future works. And that obviously includes the Britannia redevelopment as well, and the improved access to the station at that location. We're also hopeful that there's currently a UK Power Network site, which is just on the end of the NCP car park. We're hoping that that is also going to be something that's going to be able to be secured, and that obviously offers the potential for increased public realm space within the location, and obviously linked with the wider St Botolph's regeneration. And then also we've got the opportunity, which I'll talk about as well, with regards to transportation interchange provision as well. So again, it's about setting down that foundation, improving that connectivity between the station, the potentially new bus interchange, and also those connections to the south in the city as well. And then the other thing is our wider sort of connection network. So again, LC Whip 5, which is our Southern Link improvements. And the idea is, and this sort of graphic here sort of shows how we start to link up with existing cycle connections, new proposed cycle connections, public rights of way, and start really removing those barriers that currently exist within this location and start coming up with a more connected and usable network. So the actual St Botolph's work, the plan is that we will look to be starting that in the new year, and the programme for that is around 18 months in length. So moving on to the Colchester Transport Interchange. So this is another initiative taken through the Team Colchester Regeneration Board. So why is a transportation interchange needed? So Colchester obviously is now a growing city. It's more a small city rather than a large town. It's a place where we want to prioritise active and safe sustainable transport. We want to promote these obviously because of links to health, environment, and obviously the economic benefits themselves. It's obviously linked to the ambitions of the Colchester City Centre Master Plan, which was developed in 2024, and also the Colchester Delivery Framework, which is obviously closely linked to the St Botolph's regeneration and redevelopment of this location and area. The current challenges, as you'll all be aware, is that roads are obviously over capacity, high levels of congestion at peak periods. So again, anything we can do that enhances and improves the offering of the public transport services. and also the significant deficit that currently exists in the bus stop capacity. Often buses are double stacked, and again it limits and frustrates the quality of the service and the quality in the delays within the services and buses that actually serve the location. We're also going to look into the future as well. So it is about future growth. Colchester is currently in the process of reviewing its local plan at the moment. We have the Tendring and Colchester Border Garden Community Village, which will add 7,500 extra homes as well, and planning application for that is due imminently. And a city centre interchange will enable us to also integrate packages of transport infrastructure to support growth. So we're obviously looking at a rapid transit system. Again, this can help support that by providing that quality provision, provides that better link with onward travel associated with the station, and also supports high quality bus routes, and also that capacity for further growth and for additional services to operate, recognising that Colchester is obviously a growing city. We can also introduce within the transportation interchange, so it won't just be about the bus aspect, but also sort of micro mobility solutions. So actually about onward travel and how people can interact. So as well as having the train station, we can look at how it interacts with e-scooters, cycling, cargo bikes, also car clubs, and just basically create a better interchange facility so people can use different modes and integrate and change modes more easily within this location. So we're already making progress. So our next steps is we want to establish a single preferred option. So there's currently been a commission of work to look into this for the transportation interchange, and it's built on some initial work that we've undertaken associated with bus capacity studies and identification of the extent of the problem. And obviously the outputs of that will be concept designs to include the transportation facilities, so we can review different options and locations to see how they suit and can provide the facilities and provisions that we need within these locations, while also taking into account other factors with regards to the wider regeneration of the location. Undertake site assessments and technical studies, so obviously the risks and issues associated with the different site options that we look at. Obviously transportation planning, so again routing of traffic, what best serves the bus routes, also how we can integrate with non-motorised users, so obviously the cycling and walking aspects as well, and also to assess the different options that are available to us with regards to the cost and the buildability of those. And what we also want to do is develop visualisations through that design approach, so that obviously we can take those forward as well, to look at that from a public consultation perspective. So the outcomes will be, once we go through this process, is to come up with a robust single preferred transport interchange. This may potentially include some interim options as well, but provide a recommendation for approval, and we'll obviously be doing that through the Team Colchester Regeneration Board. We want the design which meets wider regeneration transportation needs of the city centre, and we'll look obviously on the basis of cost benefits, and also look at it as part of the housing options as well, and also how we can integrate it and progress it with regards to the adjacent redevelopment and regeneration, and as we say, linking it to the Colchester master plan as well for the city centre. Target timeframes at the moment is that we're looking to undertake the technical work and then look to go out to public engagement, hopefully in early 2026. This may be subject to fitting in around the mayoral elections, but at the moment that's where our programme actually aims to be going out to the public. And then following the technical work and the engagement work, we'll then look to make a recommendation on a preferred option. So moving on further, we've obviously got our LC Wick 4 corridor, which is the East Hill route, which goes out to the east of Colchester. Again, I've included another web page link, which can be followed from the presentation. this gives a artist's impression of the section looking up from roughly where you've got St James's Church up towards the High Street, and sort of shows how we're looking at segregation, but also how we will integrate it with the bus stops within the street corridor as well. Because East Hill is not just about cycling and walking provisions and improving those connections there, but it's also going to be part of our rapid transit corridor. So it's important we have the quality of the provisions there for supporting the bus services and RTS services, and creating really effectively large areas of space within the location to provide and support those improvements, to encourage people to make different choices about how they move into the city centre and improving those connections into the city centre area. I appreciate this may be a little difficult to see, but this is an extract of one of the general arrangement drawings, and just sort of highlights that, you know, we will be maintaining high quality pedestrian routes as well as the cycleways, maintaining, as I said, the bus stop areas, and again integrating those with both the shelter replacement programme, but also the scheme is about enhancing the area as well. So working closely with cultural colleagues, we're looking at different material types to the concrete slabs that are there, and looking at sort of Yorkstone paving and sort of conservation curbs. And the scheme obviously also provides with the opportunity of resurfacing the road as well, addressing some sort of drainage issues along there, improving crossings generally. So it's basically also an opportunity for us to refresh and improve the corridors itself as well. Overall, the intention is this scheme, we're looking to start on site next year, and then the programme we're thinking is going to be between sort of 9 and 12 months for completion. Following obviously on from this, we'll also be looking to extend the route under the funding that we've got from Town Deal and Active Travel England to improve the Moors routing corridor as well. And we're initially looking at that. At the moment, the Moors section, which is obviously part of the Widenhoe Trail, although it's a hard-standing sort of asphalt route, doesn't have any lighting or CCTV along that corridor, which makes it sort of more of a sort of daytime fair weather route. What we want to do is try and improve that so that we actually create a route that's for all seasons, and not only for just sort of daytime but also nighttime use as well, and give people that security and comfort to make better use of that corridor, so that we can obviously encourage and enhance the experience and encourage more people to walk and cycle. So that gives an overview of where we are and covers a few of the key schemes. That concludes my slides, so I'll hand back to you, Chairman, at this point.
Thanks very much indeed, Ian. That's a very comprehensive presentation there for us. Members, it opens up to you to ask questions. So we still have even for another 20 minutes or so. So, Councillor Spindler.
Apologies if I've missed it, but it was very hard to see on some of those etchings. But I was just wondering, are we able to have e-scooter and bike parking bays in St Bottles area, and a safer place for parking your bicycles to encourage people to use their bicycles? Because some people just don't take their bicycles into town because they can't afford to lose them at the value that they are.
Absolutely. Over to you, Ian.
Yes, so within this scheme extents, obviously we're looking at the public realm area and focusing on creating a more pleasant environment. We will be looking at some cycle provision for parking, and we do look at extending the scheme round to the Stanwell Street area. I think when I mentioned about the UK Power Networks site, that would widen up the area and would provide the opportunity for further increased cycle parking there. But also there's the adjacent Britannia redevelopment area that's undertaken under the Luff scheme. There will be increased cycle parking within that location. So obviously that will benefit from there. And also close by is the Colchester City Council's secure cycle parking as well. So again, this scheme will make it easier for people to be able to navigate within the St Botolph's area and obviously make those connections, along with the routing improvements that we've put in already under previous active travel schemes, to be able to connect up with St John Street, which in itself will then make it easier to connect up with St Isaac's Walk and the secure cut cycle parking there as well.
Thank you. Happy, Councillor Miller? Perfect. Councillor Sunnox?
Yes, thank you. I come from, I hope it's not too wide for this committee, and I'm sure the chair will put me right if it is. I sit on the Governance and Audit Committee, and one of the big problems is that we look at every time is that our capital programmes are falling right behind. And that's tragic when it's our own debt that's being incurred, but at least we save the interest and everything else. It's doubly tragic when it's money being given us to by central government. And so my question about these schemes sounds as if they're going on well, and so it's wider than this scheme. It's governance. Who is in charge of these schemes? Who is driving them? What I expect to see with good governance is someone in charge, someone accountable, someone responsible, and then I'd expect to see somebody on top, some corporate body of some type scrutinising things closely. And it worries me when I come to meetings like this and we get a number of slides, we go through them quickly, we all nod and approve, and someone's going to come and say when there's some terrible mistake, oh my goodness, you were there when it was approved, William. And that worries me. And it worries me that the whole thing is too diffuse. We've got the We Are Colchester board, and no one knows who's on it, but there do seem to be some sort of minutes. We've got another board, is it the We're Colchester, I don't know, Colchester First or something else, and that doesn't seem to have any minutes at all. And then this evening we heard about a Colchester Regeneration Board. So I'm completely confused, and if anything goes wrong, who is the individual responsibility and which is the governance body responsible, and have we got the right people, and is this behind why these projects are getting stuck and not going? Of course, the heart of Greenstead is the worst, by miles the worst, and this probably is the wrong example to take. But so who's in charge, and where's the governance, are my questions.
Thank you. I'm happy to have those questions at this committee. Ian, I don't know if this is something that you can perhaps pick up, or maybe
so
Matt.
I might ask Matt Sterling if he can assist me. But I mean, from the principles of the governance process associated with the East Hill scheme and St Botolph's, obviously the LUF funding for the St Botolph's has been secured through a bid via Colchester City Council as the accountable body. We obviously have a service level agreement with Colchester, and from a government perspective, we obviously have a formal process within Essex County Council associated with cabinet reports and obviously business cases, and we're obviously working closely with our Colchester colleagues with regards to the approval process and obviously reporting on the spending, which obviously they then feed back through to the LUF government department. On the East Hill scheme, that is, although it has funding from Town Deal, it also has funding from Active Travel England. It also uses funding from Essex County Council as well. And again, that follows through our formal project contract manual process and follows the governance and approval processes and business case and boards that are in place at Essex County Council, which obviously involves monitoring officers and our own Section 151 officer, and again follows through with a cabinet member or sign off at the end with regards to that. So there is a formal approval process and a formal project board that sits on both of those schemes. Matt, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
No, I thought that was a very comprehensive answer. I mean, the only thing I would add is that for both, whether the scheme is funded by Town Deal or Levelling Up, Colchester is the accountable body. And so all of the normal political and senior management arrangements that would apply to anything else that we do apply to these schemes.
Thank you both. Councillor Silence, you have
I think Matt has made exactly the point. We've had a good description of the internal controls within Essex County Council, which are out with my knowledge and our collective knowledge here. And I'm sure that contracting is controlled there, but we are the accountable body. And who are we putting forward to it? So what we've been told today is that we've got an 18 months St Botolph's roundabout programme that's going ahead in the new year. We've been told that following that we've got some type of transport interchange programme, but we don't know quite where it is, and there seem to be a number of options. And I don't know whether that has an interplay with the St Botolph's roundabout. I suspect it might do. So you might find you've got changes in St Botolph's roundabout as that scheme comes through. I'm only guessing because I don't know. I haven't seen any plans. Then we've also got an East Hill scheme that is linked in with the rapid transit system, but we're building the rapid transit system. So do we not, have we not looked at the detail of that? Has no body of councillors stepped forward? And I mean, the fact that the central government asked for these external boards here, to me, it shows quite clearly that they don't think we're doing our job as councillors and scrutinising these things. And I don't think we're doing our job, because we should, by now, have been right into the detail. There should be a small group of councillors, maybe only one or two, should have really got into it and gone right through every little bit. Imagine the journey if you're on a cycle. Imagine the journey if you're walking. Imagine the journey if you're going by car. Looked at the practicalities. Where are you going to park? How do you turn right? How do you turn left? And really done our job very, very well, and in advance of, so we are planning it in an integrated way and shifting these projects massively faster. I feel it's the diffusion, it's the number of quangos we've got that's at the root of these delays. Bit of a rant, sorry.
No, when I saw you were coming on the panel tonight, I expected as much. No, I look forward to it. But Matt, I don't know if there's anything more you can pick up there to alleviate some of Councillor Sunnock's concerns, but I do kind of agree with his points.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I would just say when it comes to scrutiny that the schemes funded by the Town Deal come to Colchester's scrutiny panel once a year. They came a couple of times at the very beginning of the programme and then now come for an annual review. So there is absolutely a chance for scrutiny to pull these schemes apart, and they tend to do so. The intention, I think, is to take the Levelling Up schemes at the same time at our next outing to scrutiny. And of course, politicians are involved in any decisions that Colchester makes, so apportioning the money to Essex, approving planning permission. So there's political involvement at each stage. And then on top of that, we try and engage with members, be it ward members for schemes specific to a ward or those interested parties. Scheme by scheme.
Thank you, Matt. Councillor Sunnock, anything further?
I think it's as far as we can take it, but the point remains that we need more focus and more accountability if we're going to get these things through, and I hope that somewhere someone will hear that.
We can make recommendations to Cabinet from this panel, so if there is something that potentially you would maybe want the rest of the members to agree on that we could send back to Cabinet, then by all means. But that's probably what we can do in the scope of this committee.
Yes, we need to think about that before we do that. But
absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Chair. Just very, very briefly, just homing in on one perhaps particular example of what Councillor Sunnock has said. On the St Botolph scheme, I have had real concerns expressed to me from the Parish Council in Fingringhoe as the ward councillor. And I expressed these when we had a briefing, that when those works are done, that the traffic diversion might end up going through Fingringhoe, which is already a rat run. It's got a primary school right on the corner junction. I have no idea what the governance procedure would be to take that issue any further. Now, you know, some issues we can just as councillors go to the committee and we can say these things. I have no idea which committee even it would be appropriate to take those sort of concerns to. Now, that to me just rings a few little alarm bells that perhaps, as Councillor Sunnock said, the governance is not as clear as it should be.
I mean, they're questions that you could pose here, I guess, but also scrutiny, also governance. I mean, is that a question for Matt potentially? I don't.
The real issue is, you know, if there was, let's say, if there was a Castle Ward councillor who was concerned about, say, Middle Weir, they would come to the relevant committee and they would say that. But with these sorts of issues, would you come to this committee? If so, which issue would it be on? Yeah, it's just not clear, and the fact that it's not clear is where there's a problem.
Matt, is this something you can potentially help out on?
Yeah, I think so. So at the point where contractors are appointed for the schemes such as St Botolph Circus and Elsie Road 4, then they would be required to create traffic management plans. So to keep traffic flowing, to allow the work to take place safely, and where the two schemes are happening at the same time to make sure that they don't clash. We're not at that position yet because we're still out to tender for those schemes. But then that would be that traffic management plan would be approved through Essex's governance structure.
Thank you. Anything further? No, that's all good. Any further questions, members? No? Councillor Sunnock is scribbling down. Is that a potential recommendation?
It is, but let's take it later in the meeting
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
we've had time for it to all sink in and we've heard what other people have got to say.
Absolutely no problem at all. If there's no further questions on the committee, would you just hold tight for just 1 second? I just want to speak to the clerk. So, because we're doing what we like on this meeting tonight, we're going to take Mr. Andrews' statement, have your say rather, because I know it's specifically on this item. I'm acutely aware that Ian will be leaving shortly. So, I'm not sure if you've done these before, but you'll have 3 minutes to speak. A bell will go after 2. Thank you.
Is that switched on? Yeah. I hope Ian stays for this because I've got serious concerns about both these schemes. Good evening, councillors. I spent 20 years working on very similar active travel schemes, mainly in London, Liverpool Street pedestrianisation, for example. And I chaired for 4 years a London-wide junction review group. We designed out many major roundabouts, Whips Cross, Highbury Corner, Stratford and Old Street, for example, which are now all cycle safe and pedestrian friendly. And none of them are roundabouts anymore. If you don't know Old Street, anybody know Old Street? Familiar with Old Street? If you don't know it, go and have a look at it and observe how it works, as it used to be exactly like St Botolph's, forcing walkers into unpleasant underground tunnels and a lethal hazard for cyclists. Now, Old Street has direct single-phase crossings on all its arms, giving walkers and cyclists long green times simply by holding left turns at each junction. It allows walkers and cyclists to share the same green times that drivers get without any conflicts between modes. Cycle-only and pedestrian-only phases are therefore not needed, and there's no delay to traffic. This similar thing works at various other junctions. Now, London junctions are much busier than St Botolph, so if it works in London, why can't that work here? St Botolph shall be replaced by crossroads with hold left turns, not another roundabout with outdated two-phase crossings, which will impose long delays and detours on both walkers and cyclists. TfL found that 70% of walkers do not respect these sort of crossings. It's only the young, the elderly and infirm that comply with them. Colchester is surrounded by several major roundabouts, each of which is a serious hazard and deterrent to active travel. St Botolph's is the first roundabout redesign. It must be to best practice, not a weak compromise. Moving on to East Hill, the cycle lanes proposed are both too narrow. Uphill, you need a wide cycle track to allow overtaking within the track. Cyclist speeds vary a lot, unlike drivers, especially uphill. Is that my minute? Some dismount halfway, but a downhill track is not needed. There's not space on East Hill for 2 wide tracks, clearly. But narrow downhill tracks are actually dangerous. You don't want to be, penned in a narrow downhill track. Segregated tracks elsewhere that are too narrow, Lea Bridge Road, for example, are just ignored by most cyclists. And neither of these expensive schemes should be approved as they are. Both need further redesign. Neither comply with best practice. So yes, we need a new dedicated cycle route from city centre to the east of the city, etc. But it must start in the town centre. East Hill is not the town centre, the High Street's the town centre. So the route should start there with a redesign of the High Street to allow two-way cycling. Why is the culture of the TRO not enforced? Why is the High Street not two-way for cycling? There's no alternative westbound route. Just isn't one. Crouch Street West disappeared. Am I gone now? Okay, I'll stop there. Hopefully Ian can respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrew. Ian, over to you. Quite a lot there for you.
Yeah, so obviously Mr. Andrew has obviously made these comments before, and we did take these and respond to a number of these points as part of the original public consultation. I haven't got the details of the response to hand from the signal designers and the technical team, but we obviously did respond on these points. With regards to the St Botolph's design itself, there's a number of factors we have to take into consideration. There is obviously a need for returning traffic back towards the Malden roundabout and Lexton Road area because of the nature of the different car parks and access onto that corridor. To not do so would obviously create problems at junctions further up, including Brook Street. So that was a factor. We also needed to look at the point of view that St Botolph's, we do need to balance all modes of travelling, so that still includes cars. And from a capacity perspective, we needed to look and factor that into this location because it's complex. And with regards to sort of the actual active travel measures that have been designed there, we did consult with Active Travel England, who are the official Department for Transport body. We actually took advice from them with regards to the design layouts and have incorporated that within the scheme. And as I said, at this point in time, it provides the best balance for achieving all the objectives at that location. And we have obviously consulted with the appropriate specialists within the government on those measures. On East Hill, so it's not possible obviously to install 3-metre wide cycleways in both directions simply within the limitation we've got. What we have installed is 1.5-metre wide cycleways, which are LTM 120 compliant. The feeling is that we do need to provide cycle provisions, segregation in both directions. This is not just about sort of supporting cyclists, confident cyclists. It's also about supporting those which we want to encourage. So therefore, it's important to have segregated facilities on both sides of the road in both directions. With regards to sort of cyclists overtaking up the hill, that provision is still provided if they, in the event that someone is moving at speed, they are able to overtake into the carriageway if they so wish. So from the point of view of benefits, it was felt that we achieved the best benefit by providing provisions in both directions. And again, we have heavily consulted Active Travel England on that, and they have supported that approach and that scheme with us. With regards to the High Street, I don't disagree. I do think we do need to be looking at how we improve the connection into the city centre. I think, the approach we're taking, as you can tell, is that we've improved Head Street. We've put two-way contraflow in there. We've improved the provisions on St John's. We're going to be improving the provisions around St Botolph's. We'll be looking at as part of the regeneration. We're also now, obviously as part of the East Hill section, we're putting in provisions there which will then connect up to the High Street area. And I think it's now just a matter of how we progress that going forwards, and any Colchester City Centre Master Plan and redevelopment, we will look at how we can further progress improvements that support active travel within that location. So I think it's part of a journey. We're not going to be able to do it all at once, but obviously we are making, I think, quite significant strides to improving the accessibility of the city centre of Colchester for all with regards to cycling, walking, mobility scooters, with what we're proposing to put in.
Thank you very much indeed.
One
Ian.
question to
You have a further minute to respond as it happens, so yes, please feel free.
Did you, Ian, go and look at Old Street in London and observe how it works?
I have not been to Old Street in London.
Well, why not? Because it used to be exactly like St Bottles, dead ringer for St Bottles, and it now works beautifully for everybody. And because it's a crossroads, you get a lot more public realm back to do good things with.
So just very quickly before you come back in, this isn't going to be a back and forth, so you do have a full minute. Is that all you have, yeah? Because you can still got time.
Okay, my second point is you cannot overtake somebody in 1.5 metres, you need 2 metres.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you to come back on those.
So on the first point, I think I sort of answered that within my original response. And as I say, we have taken on board those comments made by Mr. Andrews in the original consultation. And on the second point, obviously, as I say, the intention is to provide the best provisions we can in both directions. We can do that by providing a 1.5 metre wide corridor in both directions. If there is someone cycling faster than someone in front on that occasion, they do have the choice if they wish to move out and around the cyclist. But as I say, I think on the whole, it was felt to provide safer provisions in both directions, serve that corridor better.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Andrew, as well, for your comments. Thank you very much. Okay, members, have we anything else we wish to add before we look to wrap up this item? Okay. Councillor Sunnucks, anything from you?
If we could come back towards the end of the meeting, we need more time to think about whether there's anything we can recommend to Cabinet or whether we're jumping our guns.
We've not done that in this panel before. We normally take it on item. So Councillor Sunnucks is marinating in some recommendations.
Councillor Sunnucks, are you meaning in relation to this specific item?
In relation to this item, I've got a sort of draft of what we might say, but it's not very good.
Okay. Better than mine, trust me. I'm terrible at doing
Chair, are you happy to return to this item?
I am at the end of the meeting. Before we do work programme, we'll just come back and take everything off. So if we're happy to, we'll move on to the next item then. Yeah. Oh, it is Have Your Say. I'm so sorry, of course. So it's all over the place tonight. So we'll go back to item 6, which is Have Your Say, and we've got Caroline White. Yeah, go for it. Hi, thanks very much for coming. You know the rules, 3 minutes and the bell will go after 2. Thank you, and thanks for waiting.
Thank you. So good evening, and thank you as usual for the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of Friends of Middlewick. I last spoke here on the 12th of December last year when we were still campaigning for the removal of the site's allocation, and we're very grateful for the support and the approval for the recommendation to do this. Theoretically, we should be in a position now where the urgency to campaign for the protection of Middlewick has been reduced. Unfortunately, this is not the case. So Giles Groom in the Council's botany report advised that there has been a history of management neglect and warned that urgent action was required to prevent further deterioration. The recent spate of fires from over the whole summer and into the autumn has exacerbated this need for action. Friends of Middlewick have made offers of support to the DIO for volunteer work parties to remove dead wood and old leggy gorse plants to reduce the fuel load and to put in fuel breaks which would have limited the spread of the fires. The DIO responded that they could not accept such a generous gift and that the MOD is not a fire expert. We would argue that the MOD have ecologists and fire experts to formulate a management plan with the fire resilience which also meets their statutory biodiversity duty. What is required is the will to do so. As a complex site of biodiversity, Middlewick requires a complex management plan. which Natural England have so far been unable to secure. With the support of Natural England, Friends of Middlewick and partners negotiated a more appropriate fire break, reducing it from 20 metres earlier in the year to 4 metres, and a cutting regime. However, the DIO have already reneged on this and have not carried out an essential cut on the meadows identified as nationally important for grassland fungi. While Natural England have acknowledged that restoration of areas impacted by the fire is also important, and it is the MOD's duty to do so, the MOD have so far carried out no remedial management work there, nor shared any plans to do so with Natural England. The launch of the Essex LNRS has highlighted the need for actions to drive nature recovery, with a target for the creation of 20,000 hectares of grassland. Middlewick is an existing, ancient, unimproved grassland, supporting many nationally or locally rare species. It is imperative that the site is conserved and protected. Will the panel commit to requesting the MOD meet its statutory duty with an appropriate management plan for Middlewick? And as it is impossible to fully discuss the complex management requirements of the site in 3 minutes, will the panel also agree to meet with Friends of Middlewick and Colchester Natural History Society to further discuss this, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed. Firstly, I just want to say my thanks to you and to Friends of Middlewick in general. So one of my ward is obviously in the south. I'm well aware of the work you're doing, and I think you're winning. It's a bit of a tricky one. So firstly, the letter that you've submitted to us and what you've just said, I'm going to pass on to Councillor Luxford-Vaughan, who's the portfolio holder. I don't know how much we can do as a panel when it comes to the MOD. I don't know if officers at all can maybe help me out on this one, but it's a bit of a tricky one, is it not, for what we can do as a council in our remit?
Thank you, Chair. If you're happy for me to respond. First of all, I'd obviously like to thank the Friends of Middlewick for their continued engagement. Obviously, the Council fully recognises and shares the concerns expressed regarding the condition and management of Middlewick Ranges, and we appreciate that the Friends and other stakeholders are seeking to protect and enhance the biodiversity of this really ecologically very significant site. Whilst the preferred options local plan safeguards Middlewick as a local green space and local wildlife site, the site, however, remains under the ownership and management of the MOD, and as such, the Council does not have any authority to compel the MOD or the DIO to undertake any specific management actions, I'm afraid. That said, planning officers are in regular contact with Natural England, who do continue to engage with the MOD and DIO and to advocate for appropriate site management. We understand that Natural England shares many of the concerns raised by the Friends and indeed the Council, and we will continue to support their efforts to secure a suitable management plan, but unfortunately we just do not have the powers to compel them to do so. And I think that's regrettable, but that's the situation how it is. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You have a minute to respond, of course, and then I'll wrap up. Yeah.
And thank you for the thanks that you've given us, and we'd like to thank the council as well. And we do appreciate that you have been acting. The same as you've said, we've been in constant contact with Natural England as well. And I think therein lies the problem, really, is that Natural England. So we have a series of letters going between us that I'm quite happy to share with the council, and where we have challenged Natural England, because the issue is that Natural England do not have, in their words, a strong role or a remit, as the site has not got a statutory designation. And I think this is the issue, is actually where the council we would like is actually some support, that the site needs a designation, because without that designation, even though and we spoke with John Torles, and the MOD have a statutory biodiversity duty, which he acknowledges they're not meeting at the moment. And the argument kind of is, would they then meet would they meet any demands of a triple SI? But actually it does give Natural England a much stronger remit and a statutory role to actually enforce management. So sorry, that's, yeah. But sorry, would you meet with us? Would that be possible? Yes.
That was absolutely what I was going to say. I certainly
Thank
would,
you.
and I'd very much like to do
Thank
that.
you.
I just see Simon's hand hovering. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, all I was going to say, Chair, was of course we're really supportive, and indeed it would simplify matters greatly if the site could be subject to national designation, and that would resolve the situation. So I'm not sure really what a further meeting, other than showing, that we all are on the same page would achieve. I think really this is entirely in the gift of Natural England now to designate, and if they aren't prepared to designate, then frankly I don't think there's anything more that we can do at the present time other than maintain that pressure on them, and we will continue to do that, to seek a national designation for this site which we believe to be of national significance.
Thank you. I think it's really important that you and others from Friends come to these panels across the committees that we have at this council, and please do continue doing it. I think it is important. Yes, I'd very much like to meet with you. If I may, I do have your contact details. If I may email you perhaps afterwards and we can set something up, I'd very much like to do that. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, on to item 8 then. So item 8 is review of Colchester greening policy, and that's over to David Carter. Very much.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm here to present the review of the greening Colchester policy. So this paper has been to this panel on several occasions in Cabinet, and it was decided that the recommendations were that further information be included on the costs of potential volunteers for weeding, comparison of what our neighbouring authorities were using for weed control, and some further information on the impacts of the health and environment of glyphosate. So, similar to the previous papers, this one recommends 3 options.
David, just 1 minute. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just remembered I don't think this is in the normal agenda pack, is it? This came separately. So so do all members have access to this at the moment? You have now. I'm so sorry. I hadn't thought of that, David.
Sorry.
That's my fault. So we're happy to continue, yeah? Okay, brilliant. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue. Sorry.
That's right, no problem. So what I'll do, I'll just go into a little bit of the background on the paper as well. So Colchester review of the greening policies. This is on really how we control our weeds and unwanted vegetation in Colchester. Back in 2019, it was decided to stop the use of chemical glyphosate, which we did across our city. We have tried a number of different ways to maintain weeds, similar to other authorities. It's a big learning process when you take out the chemical control. So some of the really good examples of what's worked well is additional mulch on our shrub beds rather than spraying, and that mulch is actually generated through our internal tree team as well. We've got teams going out, streaming around all the obstacles of lampposts, street nameplates in the city, which in the past used to be sprayed around and have all the circles of dead grass around them. And then we've had, what else have we been doing? We've also tried non-glyphosate chemicals, which has had a partial success. And the problem we've got, which really has generated to where we are now on this report, there is no one definitive replacement for spraying glyphosate. So even though we've got some bits which have worked, and there's some areas which we're struggling with finding alternatives, the non-glyphosate chemicals which we use, apart from being extremely expensive, are not systemic, so they're not killing off the weed which is below ground. So it tends to kill very quickly the vegetation it comes in contact with. But on certain weeds which have very long tap roots going in grounds in between bits of concrete or around obstacles, they will regrow back in around about 3 weeks, depending on what they are. So they're becoming a real challenge. So what we looked at in the previous paper was 3 different options, and this paper really expands on that. So one of what we're doing at the moment is we have a hard surface hand weeding team out there, which do all sort of Colchester Borough Homes car parks, drying areas, footpaths. We have the obstacle streaming team out there, and we use a small bit of chemical non-glyphosate for border maintenance. and playgrounds where we've had a particular issue with weeds, trying to control on those. We've been using the non-glyphosate chemicals as well for an external contractor. That is kind of, it hasn't gotten back to the probably as weed-free as it was 5 years ago. It's just about managing them. And when weather conditions basically are quite wet, we all know weeds grow extremely quickly. So at the moment, we are, what we've really been doing for probably about the last 3 years is hand weeding, obstacle trimmings, using non-glyphosate. And that is costing around about, or at the moment, £84,000 a year. We had 54,000 as an additional resource provided when this first came about, and then the additional 30k has been an annual ongoing revenue pressure, which the report actually says it's from underspends. What we're actually doing, example, is playgrounds, is I'm using the playground revenue maintenance budget, which is really to maintain the safety service and equipment, to actually pay a contractor to do weed control in those playgrounds. So we're not spending as much as we need to on playgrounds repair because we're having to divert that resource actually for weed control. So that's kind of what we're doing at the moment, and we've been doing that for the last 3 or 4 years. It has worked quite well in some places, but then in some places we haven't. Last year we had a particular issue when we had a very wet year. It was a very high and strong weed growth, which we struggled to keep on top of. This year with the dry summer has been, I wouldn't say easier, we've had different weed growths really in different places, but we've kind of been paying this additional money out for the basically non-glyphosate chemical control, which really after 3 or 4 weeks is growing back again, which ideally isn't ideal. The second option is really to manage unwanted vegetation using the manual methods we're currently doing, but also recruiting volunteers to conduct weed control, mainly on areas where it's safe to work. An example would be playground areas or open spaces, so we don't have to do the weed control in there. What this paper does, it breaks down really kind of how many volunteers and what that cost would be to actually do this. So we have, 80 playgrounds-ish across the city, and really we would, if you look at the final one here of 800 volunteers, to maintain them to the standard we really need to, we would have to be going in, weeding them every 2 to 3 weeks with volunteers, which is an awful lot of volunteers. But also each volunteer will need the right PPE and equipment, and we worked out that that would be about £45 per person to do this, and also employ a volunteer coordinator on a part-time basis, who would basically recruit and train these volunteers to go out throughout the year. Other option 3 is really to do the method 1, some bits of method 2, but also to not reintroduce glyphosate to what we was doing before, because we don't need to do that because some bits are working, but on areas where there is a particular health and safety issue, or we just can't get to it because there's no other way to maintain it because it's a heritage item or something, or it's a root growing in the pavement and it's causing damage, to actually use some single droplet spraying of glyphosate to hit those weeds where we're struggling to find an alternative on various areas. The table in the paper breaks down options 1, 2 and 3 into basically option 1A and 2A, where we've looked at the different methods of what could be put together and how much it would cost. Obviously the option 1 and option 1A is pretty much what we're doing now, but with a single control droplet application on specific approved areas where we have no option to or no way to maintain the weeds long term. Option 2 is to use our volunteers, as previously said, plus our trimming team. Option 2A is option 2 with a limited single control droplet application in approved areas only. And option 3 is just using the single control droplet application. So obstacles trimming team. Our obstacles trimming team has actually been a really good success of removing glyphosate, which covers a big area across the city. So really just to conclude that is for the panel to consider their options and if they wish to recommend one of those to Cabinet. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, David. So obviously, well, Catherine will know this, Councillor Spindler. This came to us earlier in the year. I would really like us to get a decision tonight. So I will open it up to members for any questions or potential selection of options. Councillor Parsons, and then you want to come in after, yeah? Councillor Parsons.
Okay, so first of all, an apology. We've not had a chance to read through all of this, so it may be covered, so apologies if that's the case. Could you just say what are the potential hazards of not using glyphosate? So I've noticed we've got down, it doesn't deal with Alexander plant. Alexander plant is a particular problem in, well, we've got slopes. We have a real problem on clay seawalls, clay bank seawalls where it destroys them. Are there any plants that would be toxic to animals that it doesn't touch? So thinking, for example, something like ragwort. Are there any of those, particularly thinking something that might be toxic to dogs, or people who've got pets, cats, that kind of stuff?
Thank you very much. David?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll take the second point first. So the original greening policy actually included notifiable weeds like Japanese knotweed, and ragwort, and we can still use under controlled environments glyphosate on that for spot spraying when those come along for those. And on the first point, one of the issues of where we're not using glyphosate and it's caused issues is mainly on where we're getting root damage in various areas, whether it be from thistle, buddleia, certainly from our historic walls, where there has, in the past, there has been maintenance on those, where we're limited to what we can actually do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parsons, anything further?
You didn't answer the specific question in terms of any hazards to animals, pets, that kind of stuff.
So from glyphosate,
Yeah, Councillor Parsons, do you mean from glyphosate? You mean that?
Sorry, from weeds that would not be killed,
Oh, okay.
from avoiding using glyphosate that might themselves be toxic to animals.
I can't really name any specific ones, but if you've got vegetation which hasn't died back, it is very high, and I've seen it, which is like 2 to 3 foot high. There could be the seeds on them, which could be ingested by animals, or getting onto their fur or anything like that, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't talking in terms of seeds and stuff, but you know, if you're a dog owner, your dog will go and eat plants. They eat grass, they eat, you know, and particularly if a dog's not feeling well, it will go and eat green stuff. So the question is, particularly in parks and so forth that we're responsible for, is there anything that's going to be kept alive as a plant, because we're not using glyphosate, that would be hazardous in that way, that might have been killed by glyphosate?
Possibly, really. I think there could be some there, because even if it's trimmed back or hand weeded out, the frequency of it grows. It could be there at a certain time, which could be along a fence line or an obstacle.
I just think it would be good to know that. There's a lot of dog owners in the area, and actually particularly in the urban areas, they don't have many areas where they can let their dogs off the lead, and some breeds actually need to be off the lead, and obviously that would be more of an issue if they are off the lead.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to Councillor Sannox. I see David's writing down, but I'm not sure we're going to get an answer to that tonight. He's answered as best he can. Councillor Sannox.
Yes. This is where practicality meets ideology, and I can sense the message coming from officers. And it's a great pity we haven't got Green or Labour people here this evening, because I feel we're a bit, because what I'm going to say is probably a bit controversial. My brother is a farmer, and he voted for Brexit because he associated the EU with banning glyphosate. And he said it is so bad for the economics of farming. There are ways around it. There are all sorts of organic farming ways around it. But it is absolutely, there's less, you can use less, you can do it better, but it's a tool that you do need in your armoury. And I sense it's a tool that we need in our armoury, and that we should we should expect our officers to have expertise and to know where it's the appropriate thing to use and where another method could be used. So I'd be veering towards option 3, but I'm aware that there are those councillors who would strongly disagree with me.
Yeah, so where we had this earlier in the year, and we had Green councillors visiting, we had Labour councillors on the panel and perhaps visiting as well. So they have had their thoughts, our party has, yours has. And I think we're now at a stage where, we've got the evidence, we've come back. This is a really good paper, a really thorough paper, where we can now make a decision, I think. I know there's only 4 of us on the panel tonight, but, that's not really our problem, what the other parties are thinking, or people that aren't here on the panel, really. I think we need to make a decision. So I, too, would be backing option 3. Anybody else? Councillor Spindler.
Just a very quickie. I had noticed, I've whisked through it as quickly, and I've obviously got the background information as well because we've worked on this before. If we don't approve it, or we do approve it either way, the other areas, like tendering, are using it. How does this affect, is this just a small decision right now, because in 10 months' time, it'll all have to change, and we'll have to go with what tendering are doing or something else? I'm not sure if you can just make that clear.
Over to you, David.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, so when we looked at what other authorities do in tendering, and Braintree both use it in some capacity. So whatever happens going forwards, if practices are aligned, it would be potentially using it or not using it across the makeup of the councils.
So basically, if they're already using it, we're going to slowly mould into that destination, possibly.
I probably can't answer that.
Yeah, none of us know what's happening in that regard. Simon.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to draw members' attention to part 17 of the report, which actually refers, I'm afraid, to the dreaded financial matters, something I'm sure close to Councillor Sunnock's heart. And it does actually highlight that the current 84,000 cost of weed control management is forecast to exceed the allocated budget in 25-26, resulting in a projected budget pressure of £30,000. So please be aware that there are considerable costs associated with the non-use of glyphosate.
Thank you. That's helpful. Councillor Spindler.
A quick one again. Say, if we were approving option 3 under the guidance of your knowledge and experience, that would possibly be the better option all round, saving money, and also, the decisions being made by those specialists who know the best time and places to use it.
Yes, I think each area would be looked at of what's the best method of weed control. So, as I said previously, it's not going back to just spraying it like we used to, which was the original method. A lot of the methods we currently use, which are successful, would continue, but then it's used in the glyphosate single control droplet application on specific areas, which would have to be approved, where we've had no real success in finding an alternative at this time.
Perfect, thank you. I think another thing that would be quite important, perhaps, I don't know if this has to be a recommendation, but that this comes back in some form in a year's time, and we kind of have another look at it and see if it has been working, because this is from our perspective, quite a political decision, but also an environmental decision, obviously. So this is not an easy thing, and that's why it's taken us so long as a panel and as members to come to a conclusion. I'm happy to propose that we opt for option 3 if I have support on that, and we could go to a vote and move on, perhaps, if there's nothing else. Yeah. So I'll propose it. Councillor Sunnock's second. Perfect. All those in favour? Perfect. Option 3.
Just to, sorry, Chair, just.
Oh, I thought I had that one. I thought I did that right.
You do, it's fine. I just want to make it clear to the panel that this is a recommendation to Cabinet, that they take up option 3 for that, and that's
Yes.
okay. All right.
Happy? Excellent. I hope I'm not being cheeky here, because I know it's only 7:15, but would anyone mind if we had a very quick 5-10 minute break? Would that be okay? Yeah, is that all right, please? At that coffee, you know. But if that's all right, we'll just come back in 10 minutes, if that's okay. I appreciate it's a little bit early, and then we'll wrap up the meeting.
it's like a weed.
Just checking we've got it right, haven't we? And 5, 6, 7, 8.
I know which ones are mine.
If it all goes horribly wrong, we'll be...
Am I just starting from the beginning?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's just the one to pop on the screen, then you're straight into number 2.
Hi everybody, are we ready to kick off again? Yeah, happy days, thank you. Councillor Science, very quickly, just been speaking to Matt, we could return to that item now if you're, I'm happy with that. Matt's going to receive it now and then we can just read that out and see if we'll support that. So that's back to item 7, which is the transport interchange update. And this is the recommendation that Councillor Science has put together. We'll just wait for Matt to receive it and then read it out to us and see if we'd agree to send that to Cabinet. Yeah, that would have been logical, wouldn't it? Sorry, go for it. Sorry.
I've literally sent it as Councillor McCarthy was talking. Suggestion, it does sound like a Governance and Audit Committee recommendation, not a sustainability panel, but that's the trouble with having people like me here. The Sustainability Panel considered the Council's plans for St Botolph's Roundabout, the transport interchange and improvements to East Hill. It expressed concern about the lack of clarity on governance for the Town Deal and Levelling Up Fund projects. In particular, there was concern about the lack of focus and scrutiny on the detail at design stage of major changes to the Colchester road layout. In addition, there was concern that Colchester is the accountable body, but all financial controls are elsewhere in Essex County Council. It recommends that Cabinet consider the matter and make a clear delegation of authority to Essex County Council for project management and to Team Colchester, making clear the level of responsibility and scrutiny expected.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm very happy with that. Matt will do his magic and shorten it and make it a bit more environment and sustainability-esque rather than governance-esque.
Yes.
But yes, I'm happy to support that. So if you're proposing that as a recommendation, I will second. All those in favour? Perfect. So we will take that. And we'll move on. We'll move back on. Thank you very much indeed. So on to item 9 now, which is the Sustainable Transport Update. Who is leading on that one? Okay, well, whenever you're ready. You've got a team with you. So yeah, please go for it.
Okay.
Sorry, no.
Just wait for our slides to come up.
We just shout next.
Into present mode. Oh, from beginning? Will it? Oh. Is that the best? Are you able to click on the first slide? Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to update you today on our sustainable and active travel projects. I think the last update was August 24, so we've got a year's worth of update for you tonight. Next slide, please. So I thought it would be good to start off by introducing the team, seeing as a few of us are here today. So you've got myself and Jane, who are both part-time officers, permanent staff in the team. We then have Mike, who's the one next to me, who coordinates the Travel Plan Club 3 days a week, and that's funded by the Travel Plan Club members. And then the other 2 days of his role, he delivers DEFRA-funded projects. And then we have Nick by my side and Jade, who are both full-time officers, and they are fully funded by our DEFRA funding. So as a team, we deliver lots of different work, but there's sort of 5 key areas to sort of summarise. So we do a lot of strategic partnership working, and Jane's going to talk a little bit more about that. We raise Colchester's profile by presenting at national conferences, and we also do a lot of knowledge sharing with a whole range of different local authorities from across the country. All of our projects are led with input from the community, and where we can, we secure funding to deliver our projects, and obviously once we've got that funding, we develop those projects and deliver them. Next slide, please. So through the presentation, we're going to sort of update on the particular projects that we want to highlight to you that we put in the report. As I said, engagement is key to all of our work, and that helps us provide an evidence base, and it gives us direction for our projects. So all the projects that we're going to present on today have all been developed in response to community feedback, and in many cases the community have had input into them, either in a co-design or in terms of the delivery. So I wanted to update you a little bit on community engagement that we undertook at the end of 2024 and into 2025, when we consulted on the new Air Quality Action Plan. It was really positive to see how many people were very supportive of taking action to improve air quality and how important breathing clean air was to them. What was also interesting was that a good proportion of people also supported continuing to deliver projects to improve air quality even after we've met the national standards. Next slide, please. A lot of support was expressed for the work we're currently underdoing and the current action plan, but we also asked for feedback on key areas for future focus, and these were the top four areas that the community supported in terms of where they'd like us to see us focusing in the future. So that was improving bus and train services, delivering more secure cycle parking, which was mentioned earlier today, improving and expanding wayfinding to support walking, and supporting active travel through the new local plan. Next slide, please. And now over to Jane.
Sorry. Strategic influencing and alignment. This slide shows the number of organisations that we work with. It includes those who we influence to get the best investment and outcomes for Colchester. Influencing Essex County Council in developing their policies like the local transport plan, bus service consultations and others mean a better deal for Colchester, and our projects complement those of Essex County Council. An example of working with Essex County Council is supporting their funding bids and the delivery of these projects, as well as community rail and other projects as well. We also influence and work closely with Transport East, the regional transport lobbying group, to include a better rail service for Colchester Town Railway Station as part of their proposal to government for improved rail services on the Clacton to Colchester rail line. That's amongst other projects that we work with them on as well. We also work internally with colleagues, of course, in helping to deliver sustainable travel within the town deal and levelling up projects as well. You'll hear more about the projects we work on and our partnerships later in the presentation. Next slide, please. This slide shows you the funding that we've brought in to deliver the projects. We think that's quite impressive, 3.91 million since 2018. This is external funding. Our team are constantly looking for external funding which will help develop and deliver the projects that the community tell us that they want. Next slide, please. Planning. As the planning authority, we set out where development is located as part of the local plan, of course. Our team help to ensure that those using the developments have options to travel sustainably. If measures are needed to increase the development's sustainable travel options, then we request this through the development team, which is an internal process helping give advice to colleagues. This can mean that the developer contributing towards this, for example, providing shared transport like car clubs or better walking and cycling measures to link their development to the neighbouring areas. Next slide, please. So promoting walking, this scored highly in the air quality consultation, and we currently look at more ways to encourage walking. One initiative is the refresh of the Walk Colchester website, and we're working with the community on the new content and design. This is being funded by Section 106 contributions as well. We've also completed 3 walking projects in this last year, and we're very pleased. Fixing the Link is one of them. That was a joint Essex County Council, Greater Anglia and City Council project. It welcomes those arriving at the station and wayfinds them to the city centre. 9 elements were delivered as part of Phase 1, including the yellow flags and the elephants. Phase 2 included trees in planters on North Station Road, and this year the final project, Beth Chatto designed drought planting scheme on the Albert roundabout and the information board have now been delivered, and I think you'll agree they're looking good. This is complementary to the active travel improvements that Essex County Council are delivering in the area, which includes a single-stage crossing at the Albert roundabout, and of course they've just finished refurbishing the North Bridge, making the walking route more attractive from Colchester Rail Station to the city centre. Another project is Walk with Words. It's also been delivered this year. A project designed and delivered again with Section 106 funding, this time from student accommodations. Walk with Words incorporates physical wayfinding as well as digital content, and Colchester Institute and the University develop the digital content, which will evolve with new writing and media being added. Wayfinding from Colchester Railway Station to the hospital has just been installed. You can see the photograph there of Bailey standing next to the new obelisk outside the railway station. He was a student at Colchester Institute who designed the Walker logo. That was paid for by Greater Anglia's Customer and Community Improvement Fund. Of course, encouraging those visiting the hospital to travel by train meets the hospital's travel planning targets and, of course, healthy living. Thank you. Over to you, Emily.
So our DEFRA funding funded a complete refresh of the Cycle Colchester website, which is a one-stop shop for all things cycling, bringing together all the local organisations, voluntary groups, and information that will help either people who are just thinking about cycling or people who are regular cyclists. That was launched in August last year, and we've had over 10,000 views so far. More recently, August this year, we launched an updated Cycle Colchester map. The last update was an Essex County Council map in 2016, so it was long overdue. We're very pleased with how it's been received. We printed 3,000. We've already run out and we've had to print another 3,000, and they've been distributed across over 50 locations, and many of those locations have got back to us saying they've run out. So we're very pleased that we've now got an up-to-date map. Next slide, please. With the DEFRA funding, we also launched last year a short-term hire scheme. So this gives people the opportunity to borrow an e-bike or e-cargo bike for a month, up to a month. And it's a low-risk way for them to see whether it could fit into their lifestyle and whether they could potentially reduce their car ownership or their car use. So far, we've had 47 hires. The average time that people have borrowed it has been 42 days. They can only borrow it for a month, but they've been so popular that people have wanted to extend, which is good news. We've found that the e-bikes and the longtails are a cargo bike, but they look like an ordinary bike. They're just longer at the back, but they can carry children on the back, and they have very big carrying capacity in terms of panniers. We've found that e-bikes and longtails are the most popular so far, but obviously we're hoping that this will grow, and we'll get more and more feedback from people as to how it's changing their car behaviour. But certainly the feedback we've had is that they did reduce their car use while they were having the bike, because they could undertake a lot of journeys because of the extra carrying capacity. Next slide, please. Over to Jane.
Thank you. Cycle security is also a high priority to encourage more people to cycle, knowing that their bike will be safe when they return from whatever they're doing, whether it be leisure or working, maybe in the city centre or surrounding. Following a successful 2-year trial of the temporary bike hub, we're now in the process of securing the permanent bike hub, which will include the secure bike park, as well as home to Colchester Bike Kitchen, which is the community bike maintenance workshop, and of course the e-cargo bike library. The chart you'll see there with the black background shows the bike park trial has been successful, with an overall increase in usership. A little bit too small to see, I'm afraid, but you can see the lines are going in the right direction. With Bikewise, we've refreshed this initiative, working with Colchester Police to teach cyclists how to lock their bikes. And the Love Your Bike signs, which carry the Bikewise message, will be installed on all bike racks in the city centre by the end of October. As part of the Bikewise project, bike register security marking is offered at Colchester Bike Kitchen and also by the police. You will also see the new secure bike lockers developed and installed at Colchester Town Railway Station using Greater Anglia's funding. And of course, new secure bike lockers are being installed at Leisure World as well, which we're told is a hotspot for theft there. Next slide, please. So promoting public transport, and the rail operator Greater Anglia has an integrated transport meeting where it considers journeys to and from the station and how to promote sustainable travel. We recently designed an integrated transport customer survey for Greater Anglia to help them consider opportunities for improvement as part of the work that we do with Greater Anglia. The results show more people would prefer to use the bus to travel to and from the railway station than they currently do, if certain barriers are addressed: coordination of bus train timetables, bus service frequency, and the cost of additional transport. We work with Essex County Council, bus operators and other partners to help increase the number of people using buses, attending the bus blueprint meeting represent Colchester's businesses and residents. We presented the findings of the rail survey to the bus blueprint meeting on our working with Greater Anglia to address some barriers, including information and signage. And we're now looking to carry out a similar survey with the bus operators. They were quite taken with the approach. So we're also working with Essex County Council on ways to help promote their park and ride service, which helps support the city centre regeneration events and, of course, the nighttime economy businesses to find opportunities for improvement. Over to you, Dominic.
Much of our work around promoting electric vehicles has been through our shared mobility schemes. The car club, the third car club car was launched this year in St Peter's Street, and this was a car that was funded partly through the developer and partly through Enterprise Car Club. That complements the two existing car club cars that were funded by DEFRA. We also continue to build on the Newtown Community Hub, which was a community-led initiative, and also our own eCargo Bike Library that Jane mentioned just now. That provides pay-as-you-go access to e-bikes and eCargo Bike on a half-day or whole-day basis. And then we have DOT, the mobility provider, who provides the on-street e-bikes. We're supporting Essex County Council in the delivery of their EV charge point strategy in relation to looking at potential locations in Colchester and also in relation to their cross-pavement solutions for domestic electric vehicle charging. Next slide, please. So turning to our work internally, our Colchester City Travel Plan has received national accreditation of very good from ModeShift Stars. This is because in recognition of our success with the number of travel plan initiatives that we've got in place, and also that we could demonstrate a reduction in the number of staff driving to work and an increase in home working and take-up of other sustainable travel modes. Initiatives this year have included some secure bike parking at the Town Hall. We've also put a bid in and received funding from Essex County Council to put secure cycle parking in at Leisure World. That's literally going in the next few weeks. We know that theft has been an issue there, so this will be very welcomed by people wanting to park their bikes there. We've also introduced lunchtime walks, and we've continued to offer free park and ride service for staff, as well as promoting the 50% discount on public transport and 35% discount on trains. We're also been focusing on staff business travel, and we've got some plans in the pipeline for promoting alternatives to driving to carry out business travel. The next travel survey is due in October, and we're aiming for excellent this year. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to hand over to my colleague Nick, who is our active travel business engagement lead.
Thank you. So far, 80 city centre businesses have had face-to-face engagement to assess travel behaviours, raise awareness of local initiatives and promote sustainable travel options. We held an event in the city centre at the Bike Hub. This was co-hosted with our Colchester bid, and this was to promote local schemes and signpost available support and community initiatives to city centre workers. And it also offered them access to affordable refurbished bikes. We've developed an active travel toolkit, which is a flexible resource used in business and community engagement. It's adaptable to focus on either the choose how you move or air quality to take care of your air projects. We're developing several subsets of this active travel toolkit, one for new businesses, one for estate agents, for new residents to the area, and one for hotels and Airbnbs for visitors to the area. Developing some real-life case studies and stories from city centre workers, highlighting the shift to active travel and the benefits that people have experienced, including cost savings, efficiency, and improved well-being. These will be published on the Colchester Travel Plan Club website to inspire wider adoption. We're producing 3 travel surveys in partnership with the bid, and these include one on business freight, one on employee commuting choices, and one on visitor and shopper travel behaviours. Next slide, please. The Colchester Travel Plan Club has 65 members, including 18 full-paying members and 47 associate members, including key Colchester stakeholders as SNEFT, the University of Essex, Colchester Institute, Essex County Council, the Mercury Theatre and our Colchester Bid. The website was redeveloped in January 2025 and the membership offers redefined to increase understanding of the benefits the club offers. The CTPC has continued to hold quarterly member meetings hosted by various different member organisations and is working with the member organisations to onboard them to the ModeShift platform, which is a nationally recognised travel plan accreditation scheme. The results so far are very pleasing. The University of Essex has already achieved a good accreditation and have been featured nationally for their efforts to help staff choose active and sustainable modes. The BID and CTPC are currently working closely to develop the BID's membership of the Travel Plan Club and so they can represent their 500 plus levy-paying businesses. This will take the shape of a focused, phased membership to realise active travel and congestion-beating benefits for engaged businesses during 2026. The City Centre Regeneration, working with the BID, Essex County Council and NET to develop a strategy for businesses, workers and visitors to mitigate the impacts of the upcoming St Bottles Circus development's construction. This includes promoting the Park and Ride, the Park and Stride sites, as well as the proximity of Colchester Town Station and the public transport discounts on offer to CTPC members. Next slide, please. The eCargo delivery app is in its final development now and should be launched for Christmas this year. It is funded by DEFRA and co-developed with local and national cargo bike delivery services. It's supporting development of a micro-distribution hub on the perimeter of the city centre, just outside the AQMA. The focus will be on solving problems of congestion and air pollution, and it will provide an e-commerce site to local businesses to help reach new and existing customers. This app is attracting interest from other towns and cities, which brings about an opportunity for licensing and continued development. eCargo bike trials are being developed in partnership with the BID and Colchester eCargo to evidence the cargo bike service as a viable alternative to traditional vans and lorries ahead of the planned regeneration works. To mitigate the impact of the city centre development work in 2026 and beyond, including works at St Bottles, Britannia and East Hill Works, reducing needs for trucks to come into the town centre while ensuring businesses remain connected to customers through deliveries. Next slide, please. The business e-learning tool is aligned with the Essex Air strategy, messaging the visual styling and interactive graphics. It's given free. The plan is to give it free to businesses as part of the CPD training for their employees. It highlights the health impacts of air pollution and the health benefits of active travel. It also has a section on Choose How You Move to raise awareness of the active and sustainable travel choices available in Colchester. Thank you.
Next slide, please. As well as engaging with businesses, we also engage with young people. So this year we updated our Take Care of Your Air toolkit for schools, and we expanded it to include active travel and also the initial actions needed to develop a school travel plan. This was in addition to what was already in there, which was about raising awareness of air pollution and its health impacts, and also the actions to reduce idling, engine idling. We have delivered assemblies and workshops to 7 schools, and we've also delivered workshops to a Beaver group and a Scout group, and 7 schools have worked with us to develop their own bespoke active travel map to highlight the different modes of travel and routes and cycle parking, bus routes, etc., to get to their school. So overall, we've engaged with about 1,000 young people. We're also working really closely with Essex County Council, with their active and sustainability team and also their bikeability team, to try and provide a more kind of coordinated approach with schools. We're sharing information, sharing what we're doing when we're doing it, and hoping that in this way we'll avoid duplication and reinforce the message with the schools to more embed what we want to work with them on. Next slide, please. We also work really closely with the community. So this year we've been to 12 local community events, and these are all the sort of small events in different areas of town. So we went to St Anne's, we've been to the Hythe, Monkwick, Shrub End, Greensted. We've pretty much covered most areas of town that have their own little community festival. We've had 350 conversations, and we've had 120 people try out an e-bike or an e-cargo bike. We also worked with the hospital to promote Clean Air Day to patients and visitors and staff. Next slide, please. Another emerging area of work is working with public health. We've been trying to increase our network with colleagues working in public health, and we've got two projects that are sort of emerging at the moment. One is to develop a communications package for the promotion of AirTex, which is a national air pollution alert service that we're signed up to. We've struck a deal with AirTex to develop a communications package that will be for our use, but also for use by all of their members in lieu of 3 years membership fee. We're also working with the Colchester and Suffolk Hospital, with SNE, ICB, Suffolk County Council and Essex County Council to develop a supporting pack to help healthcare professionals actually start introducing the issue of air quality into patient conversations, because evidence shows that patients really want to hear about air pollution from healthcare professionals, but at the moment this isn't something that's happening. So we're working on something called a very brief advice approach, which is taken from smoking cessation, that will provide the resources in a very simple and time-efficient way to healthcare providers to be able to convey that to patients. And we're looking at a few areas to pilot this project with, so we'll have more on that next time. And I think we're almost near the end. Next slide, please.
Next slide. Right,
Jane can finish us off.
Thank you. Well, what a gallop through all of our projects. So what are our team's next steps then? The highlights of the work we'll be carrying out are going to be supporting city centre regeneration by promoting travel choice and the e-cargo bike delivery service, which Nick referred to. We're going to be working with partners to increase bus use in line with the new interchange plans that our colleagues at County outlined earlier. We're going to be working on expanding shared mobility through developments as well as in existing areas as well. That's the car clubs, e-bikes and other shared providers as well, possibly scooters. Deliver the permanent bike hub, which I referred to earlier on, to give people the confidence that they can leave their bike and collect it later and it wouldn't have disappeared. Expand the partnership with health sector that Emily talked about. Work with partners to promote walking and wayfinding, which we know is quite near the top of the list by the people that we're talking to encourage walking. And of course, continue to look for external funding to deliver travel choices for residents, workers and visitors. So now, if I can, Chair, over to the panel. How can the Environment Sustainability Panel help our team to do this? We have a couple of suggestions on there. To continue to support our work enabling residents and workers to travel actively and sustainably, and also if you could tell us what you need from us to support and champion our work with the local community.
Thank you very much indeed to all three of you. That is, I know it's been a year, but that is a lot. There's a lot there. It's fantastic. Thank you. There are some questions. I'm going to jump straight in. Councillor Spindler was first.
Yeah, hello. I know on my own ward, and I also know that Sam's also on his wards, we are doing a transport survey. Quite happy to pass that information of percentages of things over to you once that's completed. But what I have noticed that comes up an awful lot with residents is e-bike and e-scooters. And while we want to encourage them, where can we work with the council and Essex County to implement parking bays in areas so they're encouraged and maybe get bonuses for parking it in the bay rather than in the middle of a pathway, so that I get endless complaints about them, but I just see that a parking bay in different areas would really help with that particular problem.
Go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that we work closely with DOT, who are the e-bike providers, and we are having conversations with them about having physical corrals and introducing those. Obviously, that's a conversation to have with our planning colleagues as to what, Essex County Council colleagues, if they're going to be on the highway as well. At the moment, how DOT operate are that they have designated areas where people can end their ride, leave their bikes, and then I believe they pay slightly more if they end their ride in a different location. So we are going to be having ongoing monthly meetings with them, and we will bring that up. But actually, where these designated parking areas are provided, we do need to look at again. So thank you for that. I'll take that away.
Thank you. Councillor Spinner, anything else? No? Councillor Parson?
You did that microphone, didn't you? Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, there's a huge amount you've covered. When you've done your impact assessments, I assume you've looked at who's been impacted and where they live. Is the impact proportionately spread between people who live in the urban area as opposed to the rural area, or is it concentrated in one rather than another? That's the first question.
I think it's fair to say that it is concentrated in the city centre. I mean, a lot of our funding, the DEFRA funding, is off the back of the air quality areas. So what we've used that funding to set things up and sort of test them and pilot them. These are all quite new services. But what we're doing is using that as a kind of building block. So things like the car club, we've started in the city centre because we've got that funding, but we're looking to expand that through developments and so that it covers more of a larger area. We acknowledge that we don't do so much in rural areas. There are less travel options, but our main aim really is for people who are able to make those short journeys by a different form of transport. So we're really looking at sort of people living within 3 miles who could use walking, cycling, use the bus quite easily, which would then free up space on the roads for those people that have to make their journey by car.
Councillor Parsons.
Okay, so going on to the second question. You've talked about the bus focus and strategic influencing and asking how for suggestions. My ward has got 36% of people aged 65 plus. That's double the national average, means it's one of the highest proportion of elderly people in the UK. Mersey Island itself, as opposed to the mainland bit, has probably got at least 50%. When I knocked on the doors and had a chat with the local estate agents over the summer, they told me that 70% of all houses sold over the last few years, roughly, are going to people from the London area who are basically retiring there. So it's going up. Now, obviously, people get to a certain age in their 80s when they make a decision, am I going to give up my car? So this should be absolutely ideal territory for you, ideally, in terms of public transport. Are you aware of the very specific obstacles, though, that stop people using the buses from there? In particular, basically the bus companies will not come to Mersey a lot of the time. They will stop at Langenhoe or they will stop at Peldon, because they have this idea in their head that if there is a high tide, they should not take the risk of crossing the Strood. Now, I have local residents who've raised this with me. I've written to the bus companies. The bus companies are based somewhere way off in the distant north of England or somewhere. They have absolutely zero understanding of tides. Now, I've explained to them that tides go through a monthly cycle, and you will get a spring tide and then a neap tide when it's very low, and another spring tide not quite so high. And, you know, it will not cross. When it's a high tide, it does not cover, there's no risk of it covering the Strood on a neap tide. They don't get it. They are so risk averse. So actually, there's a huge number of people who just don't use the buses on Mersey. When I asked last night at the local plan infrastructure briefing whether we'd even put that into the transport modelling, the answer was no. So I'm thinking that this probably does need to be picked up by the council, and you are probably the people to pick it up, because I'm getting nowhere as a councillor. People are frustrated. It already takes an hour and a quarter to get from Mersey on the bus into Colchester. There is no bus to the train station. It drops you about a quarter of a mile away, and you've got two major roads to get across. I tried it when I had a speaking engagement in Exeter, and honestly, yeah, great views from the top of the bus over the rural area, but, you know, I'm lugging my suitcase across these heavy roads and thinking an octogenarian's just not going to do this. Over to you.
Who can pick that up for us?
I can't remember if Jane mentioned, but one of the things we're trying to get going with the bus operators is to do a survey, and particularly on an integrated travel survey. So that sounds like the perfect opportunity, if it was something that you could promote in Mersey, to help get that direct feedback from people. I mean, obviously we can raise that at the bus blueprint meeting, and we've got our local contacts with the bus operator, so we can raise that anyway. But I think if we do a survey, getting that feedback would be really, really useful. And if councillors could help us to spread the message about the survey and help publicise it, that would be really useful. Do you want to add anything, Jane?
No, I think that covered it all, but just thinking again with the work with the bus operators, there's other things that could be looked at as well, like dial-a-ride service, which might be more cost-effective than running a big, perhaps half-empty bus. And I think Essex County Council put a bid in for that, but wasn't successful. But I'm not too sure. But working with Essex County Council, you know, we hope to be looking at all these options. But the results of a survey obviously is the evidence there to go to, whether it's a commercial operator or to get some perhaps government trial funding to do something like that. Thank you.
The biggest issue is simply this mindset of the bus companies. You know, I've worked it out on the timetables. At the moment, 8.3 days a month it gets covered, and obviously you've got a sort of a mile or two queue coming back. It will double probably on the mid-range projections from the Climate Change Committee to about 16, 17 days. If we, with the sort of 20, 30 centimetre rise is projected for the next 25 years. But, you know, they just have the mindset, if the tide table says high tide, we don't go onto the island. And that just stops huge numbers of people using the buses.
Thank you very much indeed. I agree. I actually, the bus I use goes towards Mersey, but is always terminated in Peldon. So not that I go out as far as Mersey, wouldn't dare. But I know what you're saying, absolutely. But hey, that's some winter campaigning for you. Put your big coat on and go surveying. It'd be lovely. Councillor Sunnox.
Yes, just to start by backing up what Councillor Parsons is saying, I'm a Mersey man, and bred on Mersey. All you've got to get to the bus companies is the message that it only ever goes over the Strood between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Is that right, Martin? It's about that. It's only at spring tides, and spring tides only occur when the moon's in line with the sun, and it's just fact. So they can, outside those, should be able to schedule buses. And I don't think you need a survey. I think you just look at your tide tables and point it out to them. And I'm sure Martin will give you the details. So just to back him up.
5.5 metres and it will cover it. 4.5 metres definitely.
Okay. And then what I wanted to say about all the initiatives you're taking is great. You asked if you had our backing. Well, you have my backing. You're doing everything you could possibly think of to nudge people towards modal shift. And that's what, as a council, it's really good to see us doing practical, down-to-earth things, not pontificating. And so that I think we should give you 100% support on that. There's a but. Yesterday, we heard the prospects for transport here and for car travel times. And we heard about the travel modelling. And it's going to get worse. Every way we look at it, it's going to get worse. And no one is producing solutions that are as big as the problems, in my view. Absolutely not. the nudge work you're doing is going to make a difference, and we should certainly do it. But your second question for us is, what can you do to help us? Well, what I feel we need to do is we need to get solutions to that bigger problem onto the agenda. We don't need just minor initiatives, leaflets given to people, work schemes, da-da-da-da-da. We do need those. We don't just need those. We need some big, fat economic incentives for people to travel by public transport wherever they can. And you need a pot of money to subsidise the buses, and you need to discourage people from using the roads. So I just looked up some of the benefits that came from the congestion charge scheme when they introduced it in about 2002 in London. They got about 12 between poisonous emissions, nitrogen dioxide and so on. They reduced by 12 to 15%. And car usage, 33% reduction in the congestion charging zone. This has to be, you know, if we're serious about modal. If we're not serious about it, forget it, and we'll just all get sit there in more and more congestion. Where I live, it's becoming impossible. It's impossible. I can't travel to. I've got a business in Rumford. I can't really get there anymore. They've closed down the roundabout. The roads clogged at the times I need to travel. When I come to council meetings in the evening, I have to leave an hour. If I'm going to be sure to be here, I have to leave an hour beforehand. I only live out at Great Tay. It's not very far, but the A120 is a disaster. We need you good people to be beginning to put the groundwork in for a solution that's as big as the problem. And I know it's politically difficult, but if no one starts it off, it'll never get anywhere. It's not something I would ever dare propose, but I'm rather hoping I could nudge you into proposing it.
Thank you very much indeed. Some good comments there. I don't know if there's anything you can come back on there, because it was more comments than anything, but I appreciate it. Anything else from anybody? No? Okay, so...
One more question.
Yes, go for it.
It's about the... we didn't hear about Essex Pedal Power. I was hoping we'd hear about Essex Pedal Power. And it's a scheme in Greenstead where we've given bikes to people for 12 months, and we've tracked to see whether they use them. And if they use them, they keep the bikes. And if they don't use them, I think we get them back. And I'd be fascinated to know whether people are using them, whether the scheme's worked, whether the bikes have all been nicked, whether the tracking shows that people are using them and getting healthier and better. Does it work?
Yes, as far as we know. Obviously, it's not our project, but we could get some information about it. But we do go to some of their update meetings, and as far as I know, it's going really well. They've given out a lot of bikes, and they are being used, and after 6 months they get to own the bike. So as far as I understand, a lot of people have got to that point where they're owning the bike.
If they're using it enough.
If they're using it enough, yeah.
And
which
who is
tracked.
running it if not you?
It's the Active Travel Wellbeing Society on behalf of Essex County Council and Colchester City Council. So we're more just like a stakeholder in the project rather than actually running it ourselves. But if the panel would like some information, I can get an update. We're due to meet Sally, who heads up that project soon anyway, so I can get all the
I'd
details.
be really interested in hard statistics. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else? Anybody? No? Okay, so our recommended decisions are to support the progress being made by the Transport and Sustainability team delivering on the Council's strategic plan commitments, and support the ongoing partnership working with ECC and other stakeholders to encourage schools, businesses and residents to make more active and sustainable travel choices. Agreed? Agreed. Brilliant. Thank you very much as always. Thank you. Okay, item 10, nearly there. So that is the Climate Emergency Action Plan update. We have Simon, and we also have a new member of the gang. Hello, are you leading on this one? Who's
I would like to introduce Marianne Capps, who has replaced Ben Plummer as our Sustainability and Climate Change Officer, and she'll be leading on the Climate Emergency Plan update. Thank you.
Over to you, Marianne, and welcome.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Simon, and thank you, councillors. I'm just going to skim through as we have had quite some time to fill the role. So we are just starting to gain a bit more momentum on the projects that we're working on. Obviously, my wonderful active travel team here have just given an amazing account of the work that they've done over the last year. So I've got big shoes to follow. But where we have made some progress, basically we've got the Climate Emergency Action Plan, which we published in January 2020, and latest version was published last year in November. We are currently doing a full review of the Climate Emergency Action Plan, which covers 8 themes and over 50 actions. The 8 themes are to reduce the emissions from buildings and fleet, produce renewable energy, enhance biodiversity and protect the environment, support active travel and improve air quality, sustainable waste management, support for reduce, reuse and recycle, collaborate with others on the environmental action, sustainability planning, economy and energy efficient homes, and also to change the way we work. Our current new priority actions are to establish energy audits throughout the council buildings using the ISO 14090 environmental management system for climate change and adaptation. We're looking at early planning for renewable energy generation in Colchester, community support for energy efficiency and renewables, and improving understanding of climate risks and adaptation for council operations. We are working in partnership with University of Essex and Essex County Council, looking at secured heat network development unit funding. We're carrying out a feasibility study for heat networks in the Greenstead area, and next steps will be discussed with the University and Colchester Borough Homes in due course. So the additional work streams that we're looking at are supporting Essex County Council on the local nature recovery strategy and working with community groups to enhance local nature reserves and initiatives. And also the participation in the DEFRA Adaptation Power Reporting Power pilot that we worked on last period. We're looking at working with DEFRA on that for period reporting 2027 to 2029 and focusing on the local climate impacts and adaptation strategies. And lastly, we're looking at updating the web pages. I believe there's website updates happening, and we'll be looking at including theme summaries, progress and monitoring data, reporting on the council's greenhouse gas emission figures, and offering more support for residents to take climate action and take small steps to make big changes. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Any questions, members? No? Oh! Councillor Parsons. I'm so sorry, Councillor Parsons, your microphone. Sorry.
Section 5.9, page 44. We recently took part in the DEFRA Adaptation Reporting Power pilot. I was just wondering, first of all, why that report wasn't attached. Any particular reason?
Thank you, Councillor Parsons. Good question. I don't have an answer for you, but I can forward over a copy of that and the feedback we received from DEFRA.
Okay, next question. You don't need to forward a copy to me, but perhaps to the other members of the committee, because I've actually read it. What I read was actually very good. the danger of a local council doing stuff on climate change is it ends up doing a whole load of stuff that a lot of other organisations are doing, but not necessarily focusing on the local area. What that report did, though, it did focus on the risks in the local area, and I think the council's team are to be commended for that. It includes 70 references to flooding, including coastal flooding. It included 6 references to coastal erosion in the local area, and it included 8 references to the risks of wildfires. Now, I think that's really, really important. I've raised some of those issues in full council meetings a number of times. What concerns me a bit, though, is both the responses I've got when I've raised that in full council and the list of actions in the climate emergency plan. Even looking at those 8 that we've got there, none of those 3 things that are in that report to DEFRA get covered there. Now, is it the case then, and I'm going to put this to your boss because I don't think it's fair to put it to you as a new member of staff, is it the case that we are saying, look how good we are to the government, to DEFRA, but in terms of what we're actually doing, we're doing 0 on coastal erosion. Coastal flooding, yes, the County Council is the lead authority, although the 2010 Flood and Water Management Act says that we can actually do stuff as well with their consent. And wildfires, which are a risk in some areas, we've not really thought about our actions. Now, that report, Section 62 of the Climate Change Act, says that the report should be what we see as the risks, what we're doing to tackle those risks, and our progress towards them. So, I know we're doing nothing on coastal erosion. We're doing nothing on coastal flooding. Wildfires, I have flagged up to the planning department only fairly recently. There are areas that we've got, take for example Fingering Hoe. Fingering Hoe, one end of the village is a cul-de-sac. The local fire department will tell us that fires in rural areas leak ever so quickly. So if we were to have a fire there, we could not easily evacuate that population, and other than going over the fields. So elderly and vulnerable people would be seriously at risk. It's not just Fingering Hoe, East Mersey. In fact, the whole of Mersey Island, if you think about it. Wivenhoe is almost in that kind of category, and there are probably other areas. So surely that should be informing our thinking in a whole range of areas, like should we have developments in areas that we couldn't evacuate if there was a wildfire? And I'm thinking 2022, a village on the Essex-London border, Wennington, a whole street was burnt down. You know, and we are in the most water-stressed part of the country, 700 millimetres of rainfall. So surely we should have those 3 areas at least that are in the DEFRA report that we've said are a risk for the local area. Surely they should be built into that climate emergency plan, which we've said is the #1 priority in the Council's strategic plan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parsons. Simon?
I wholeheartedly agree, and that basically comes down to why we are looking at more of a root and branch review of the Climate Emergency Action Plan, because after we've looked at that pilot project that Ben took part in, it was actually clear that one of the glaring omissions of the Climate Emergency Action Plan was that focus on adaptation. And as more and more people are actually seeing the impacts of climate change, I think that's something that we need to look into and certainly start to try and include as a business risk within our risk register.
And could I ask, A, is there a timetable on that? And B, is it actually going to be a focus on the effects of climate change on the local area, or the effects of climate change on how well the City Council can deliver its services? Because they're not actually the same.
I don't think we've got a timetable worked out for it at this moment. We need to discuss the resource implications of looking into that work.
The second part?
Sorry, I missed the supplementary bit.
Is the focus of that going to be on the impacts of climate change on the local area? Like I've just mentioned, the Strood will be covered twice as many days as it is currently. Or is it going to be on the impacts of climate change on how easily Colchester City Council can function? So the focus on the council or the focus on the local area?
If I have anything to do, it will be the former rather than the latter.
On the local area?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
Chair, I wonder if we could make that a recommendation to Cabinet, that there is a focus on the local area?
Definitely. It's actually something, so before the panel kicked off for this year, we had a little bit of a discussion, myself and Vice Chair Kelly Rippengale, and erosion and the like came up. So I'm glad that we can maybe, well, make a recommendation at least to Cabinet and see what happens from there. So yes, I mean, so what would we word that as? So, as verbatim of what you just said. So
I would suggest that the panel noted the risks identified in the council's adaptation report to DEFRA, including both pluvial, that's P-L-U-V-I-A, pluvial and coastal flooding, coastal erosion and wildfires, and noted these risks are not currently in the climate emergency plan actions, and urges the Cabinet to consider actions to address the local impacts of climate change on the local area, such as these. Thank you, Matthew.
Anyway, that's perfect. Thank you. Are we all in support of that as a recommendation, members? Yeah, fantastic. And thank you to you guys for taking that on board as well. Is there anything else? Otherwise, we're just to note that. No, happy? Okay, that's it then. On to the work programme, Matt. Is there anything for the work programme?
No, Chair, just take it as read. There was one report that was moved from this committee and will be bundled up with a report coming in February around Leisure World gas emissions. Other than that, there's nothing to note. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, I will close the meeting then. Thank you all ever so much indeed. It's always a lot of fun, isn't it? But thank you. Thank you for everything. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Why do we have